Okay, I think we're set and ready to go for our August 20th library board meeting. First, we'll go by going around and just taking attendance. We'll start on this side of the room.
John Odenbiger.
Wanda Mangle-Cook.
Amy Oren.
Jenna Reno.
Hannah James.
Paul Jensen.
And then do we have someone online?
Yes, Kristen Shipper.
Perfect. Thank you. Welcome. First item we have is approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion for approval?
I move approval of the agenda as presented to us this afternoon.
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any opposed? No? All right. Next, we have our approval of our minutes from our July 16th meeting. Do I have a motion for approval?
Make the motion to approve.
Second.
Wonderful. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, moving on to number 3, public comment. Any public comment today? All right, rolling in number 4, staff report with Megan.
Hello. I want to share some preliminary summer reading program numbers since that ended last week. We exceeded participation numbers across the board, adults, teens, kids. We had more in every category. We had a total of 2,476 people register, and they read almost 76,000 days this summer, which is great. So September next month begins our fall programming in earnest. So most of our recurring programs, like our book clubs, restart next month. A couple programs I want to highlight. One is for children and is in cooperation with the American Red Cross. It's a program that helps train kids basically on how to react in emergency situations. It's focused on fire safety, but we'll touch on overall safety as well. There are sessions at all 3 library locations, and the details about the times and locations are in your packets. Our new teen librarian, Anna, has started working on her programming for teens for the rest of the year. And one thing you may notice going forward is that many of our teen events will now have different sessions for different age groups. We hope that this helps keep older teens engaged since they don't want to go to like little kid programs. So it may be the same program, just adapted for like 11 to 14 and like 14 to 18.
Sure.
One of those is the paper airplane competition in your packet. This wasn't also just because of ability levels. It may not be fair for an 18-year-old to be competing against an 11-year-old. For adults, I wanted to mention that we've added a session of our Jigsaw Puzzle Socials. These have been happening monthly at the main library for, I think, almost a year now. And they've expanded to the Carlson Library. So if you're looking for something to do on a Saturday morning, you can tell your mom about them, Amy.
Yes.
She can go to the library on a Saturday morning and just visit with other people and do puzzles. Also coming up this Thursday is an author visit that's at the main library. Eric Larson, who graduated from Fargo North before continuing his studies on the East Coast, will be visiting to discuss his book, Grounding Global Justice. It's focused on how race and class impact free market systems across the world. And the last one I'm going to mention is a multi-generational program. As you may be aware, the last week of September is Banned Books Week. This year we're hosting a film series throughout the month of September, focusing on movie adaptations of books that have been challenged, not in Fargo, but other places in the country. And those are on Saturday afternoons. Does anybody have questions for me about any of the programs or anything else at the library?
No. Any questions? No? Okay, thanks for the update. All right, moving on to number 5, we have the director's report.
Yeah, per your packet, you can see my director's report. Doing the quarterly check-ins with my admin team folks, it's always very important. Since the city kind of went to like a a quarterly check-in as opposed to an annual review. So that's always good feedback. I've been meeting quarterly with folks anyway, but now it's a little more formal, which is nice. And so you see that there. If anyone has any other questions.
Any questions on the director's report? Yeah.
I have a question for you. Following up on the interviews and the media appearances, I've been asked a couple of times, what do you attribute the record-setting level of participation and circulation at our libraries to? And I think, I think you've credited the staff and the fantastic programming, the job they do with curating the selection. I wonder if you could add any color to that or any further thoughts beyond Colleen Hoover.
I think, we've kind of seen in the piece that was done, you can kind of see that across the boards with West Fargo and, I guess Moorheads are in a really exciting time for them too, because they're getting a new building, which is exciting for them. I think, we were really, if I think back in 2019, we had record circulation. It was 1,049,000, something like this. And so every year we were amping up 19, then 2020 hit with the COVID. And we've been bouncing back from COVID. I think, so you have kind of a post-COVID bounce. I think e-content, again, is a huge driver. And we'll get into this in terms of budget, but the challenge is how expensive that stuff is. Mm-hmm. An ebook costs around $46. A physical copy costs us around $16. And that's the challenge. We had staff in here talking about Hoopla, where it's a cost per use. And that's a huge challenge for us with a static budget. Mm-hmm. And so it's almost counterintuitive that the more popular it gets, the more less affordable it becomes. So, but I would say that's a huge driver for us. I think, again, all the work that's done in the collection in terms of maintaining currency, the kind of work that is done in terms of selection, I think that goes into it. And again, like I said, in the piece is just the level of support that we get from the community. So kind of a multifaceted thing, but it's all kind of coming together in regards to that.
Mm-hmm. Do we see any trends of it tailing off or reversing or only going up from here?
Well, I would say this. We've had to reduce the amount of availability in terms of Hoopla on a monthly bus basis from 6 to 4, and then Max Price kind of tamped that down. So if you look at the circulation numbers, you can see that Hoopla is down, but that's because we had to economize how we were making it available, or we were going to go over the budget significantly, which we can't do. So, I mean, the numbers that you see, we'll get to them, and things are still strong, and we're still on pace for the end of 2024 to surpass 2019. So, it's just covering the bases in terms of budget, and we'll discuss that a little bit coming up too. So that.
All right, thank you very much.
Sure.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. Moving on. Unfinished business, we have none. New business, we can go to our 2025 budget update.
Yeah. Obviously, the overall city budget for 2025 is still in process currently. I can tell the board, though, in terms of the 3 positions we were asking for, in terms of the safety position, the full-time children's librarian and full-time reference associate 3, none of those positions were funded, and it's a fact the city didn't fund any positions for 2025 for any departments. Wanted to focus on cost of living and this kind of thing, and I think they're still in the process of kind of working that out, and I don't know how that's going to land. That's a lot of work on their end. in terms of operating, obviously, that's still in flux to a certain degree because it's not finalized. The 25 budget is not finalized. But of the 80-so thousand dollars that we did request for books and materials, e-content, that kind of thing, we got a total of currently, it's not the final number, but an increase of $13,746. So obviously that's not close to what we're looking at. So we'll have to make some decisions looking at 25 in regards to how we economize on what we have to maximize what we can do, essentially.
Did you say you asked for 80 and they said we'll give you 13?
Correct.
Interesting. Okay.
So, and again, the city's overall budget for 2025 is not finalized, so things can always change. I believe in terms of our capital request for the repurposing of the old coffee space at Main, I believe that is still part of the 2020 budget as I speak now. And again, these things can change. So, kind of wait and see. We know we're not getting the positions and rather limited, obviously, in terms of operating, going forward that way.
Were those three positions that were vacated or new positions you were
New
adding?
positions.
Okay,
Again, the full-time children's librarian and the full-time reference associate 3, those were positions that were identified as part of our staffing analysis back in 21. They gave us 2 of the FTE, of the 4 FTE that was identified, and I've been asking for those ever since. So that would have been for 25, that would have been the 5th time I'd asked for those 2 positions. And we're still not funded. And the safety position wasn't funded either. It's disappointing given the challenges that we're experiencing on a daily basis. So yeah, that's kind of where those conversations are now.
So I see you met with 2 times Michelle Turnberg, the new library commission liaison.
Right.
So for her role, were any of these, I guess maybe it's a 2-part question. So what exactly would Michelle Turnberg's role be with being a liaison, and was anything a conversation to bring up?
Well, yeah, Michelle and I met. We gave her a tour of the main library. Michelle's here.
Right.
We did discuss budget, obviously, and maybe we'd go to public comment, but Michelle could speak more to her role. But generally, the commissioner liaison is essentially meets with the department head, depending on everyone's availability, to kind of talk about what's kind of up on the front of that department and this kind of, and discuss budget. And as we go through the fiscal year and this kind of thing. So I've had a number of liaison commissioners, and they've participated very differently depending on the individual commissioner.
Of course.
So it can vary.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? No? All right, moving on to letter B, the Northport Branch project update.
Yeah, we're still getting estimates for the door widening and the carpet replacement. And I don't have hard numbers at the moment. Of course, we have money for it. The one thing to make everybody aware of is when we get to the carpet, Northport will have to be closed. Because they literally, because the kind of carpet that's in there currently, they actually have to get a machine and like remove it specially with the glue and the whole 9 yards. I guess it's quite extended. Obviously, all the shelving will have to be moved, books would have to, stacks removed, and it's gonna be quite a project. Don't have a hard timeline at the moment, but just giving everybody the heads up that we anticipate that Northport will be closed a portion of time while that project's going on. So we'll know more once we finish up on the bid sheets and we know where that's gonna land and get schedules together from there, so.
Any questions? No? All right, on to number 8, the statistical report, usage.
Yeah, looking at, per your packet there, you can see in terms of visits, attendance, we're up 13% through the end of July over last year, which is in excess of 30,000 more visits across the 3 locations. Programming attendance, up 44% over last year, which represents an increase of over 7,500 more attendees at library programs. Volunteer hours is strong. Year-to-date through the end of July, up 61% over last year, but represents an increase of 645 volunteer hours over last year. Internet sign-up, 21% over last year, representing an increase of 6,653 more times folks have used the internet through the end of July. Webpage hits up 16%, just over almost 21,000 over last year. In terms of CIRC, per early, you can see just kind of a little more detail. You can see that print is still strong over last year, almost a little over 4%, which increased over 11,000. And then total CIRC up a little over 9% over last year, which represents an increase of over 54,000 more items than last year. And again, we're still on pace of beating our circulation for 2019.
Any questions on usage? Okay, July financials.
Yes, in terms of the donations, on the revenue side, you can see we received $100 from a IRA gift from Karen Olson, and also $3,000 for staff development funds from the Friends of the Fargo Public Library, so thank you, Friends, for that. As said before, if it wasn't for the Friends in terms of that money, we wouldn't be able to do the staff appreciation, which is really important. On the expenditure side, you can see $727 expended for the Summer Reading Challenge adverts. Again, thank you, Friends, for that. An expenditure of $1,505 again for the Summer Reading Challenge. Again, thank you, Friends, for that. $22 on One Book, One Community expenditure. Again, thank you, Friends. And $80 for staff development expenditures for the Way to Go and Summer Picnic potluck supplies. Again, thank you to the Friends for all of that. Tremendous work. In terms of operating through the end of July with 58% of the budget lapsed, we're at just under 57% expended. Obviously getting close to the latter part of the year, really start zeroing in on kind of where we are towards the end of the year and what we might want to do in that regard. And you can see revenue of just under $20,000 through the end of July.
Okay. Any questions on financials? All right. Do we have anyone from Friends of the Library here?
No.
No? Okay, our next meeting is September 17th, and that is it. We are adjourned.